night over the desert was dark and dense, as if the air itself refused to let any light pass through it. The base that held the Helix crew seemed half asleep. Distant corridors breathed with the quiet movements of the night shift. Old server racks hummed behind reinforced doors, and in the labs, a cold white glow from the monitors refused to die. Leah sat at the terminal, elbows resting on the metal table. Her shoulders were slightly hunched, eyes dry, and fingers hovering above the keyboard were trembling, not from fatigue, but from the fact that she had been staring at the same single line of data for hours, a line that should not have existed. Behind her, the airlock door slid open with a soft hiss. "You're still here?" Crom's voice sounded more tired than mocking. He walked closer, glanced at the screen, and frowned. "You're seriously telling me," he said slowly, "you've been spending all this time analyzing noise?" Leah didn't answer right away. Instead, she zoomed in the graph again. The screen showed chaotic peaks and valleys, the typical landscape of random cosmic static. Any ordinary filter would have flattened it into meaningless background. But in this chaos, something repeated, a rhythm too regular to be an accident. It appeared, vanished, and then came back with frightening persistence. "This isn't noise," Leah finally said. "This is a scheme." Crom gave a nervous half-laugh. "Come on, it's just a recording from 2008, 15 years old. What kind of scheme could be hiding in that junk?" Leah hit a few keys, switching from waveform to decoded numeric data. The static dissolved into columns of numbers, physical parameters, model outputs, formula fragments. Some lines look like distorted versions of equations from general relativity, but with extra terms no Earth-based physics in 2008 had ever written down. Others lined up perfectly with the phase space parameters they had seen on ARK 9 when the core was pulsing at the edge of stability. "This is," Crom began, then stopped. His throat went dry. "Yes," Leah said quietly. "These are temporal synchronization parameters for ARK 9 core." She turned toward him, holding his gaze. "These parameters are known only to us, only to ARK 9, only to those who were there." Footsteps echoed in the corridor, then another airlock opened. Ray entered, holding a crumpled sheet of paper, the same printout the Earth scientists had shown them earlier that day. "Still dissecting the signal?" he asked, though the answer was obvious. Leah touched another key. The speakers crackled and the lab filled with a distorted voice, slow, scratched by interference, but recognizable so painfully that Crom's stomach clenched. Captain Ellen. "If you're hearing this, it means the variable worked." The pronunciation was pulled apart by noise, like words shouted through a collapsing tunnel, but the tone was hers. Ray looked from the waveform to Leah. "What did you find?" Leah drew a long, steadying breath. This was no longer just about an interesting anomaly. This was a line between their past and their future. This message wasn't just sent into the past, it's adjusting the past. Silence fell over the room like a dropped curtain. "What do you mean, adjusting? It's a file, a piece of data. How can it change anything?" "Look at these fragments," Leah highlighted, parts of the spectrum. "These components of the equation simply did not exist in 2008. They appeared in the file only after we came here." Ray's eyes narrowed. "After we appeared in this 2023, he said slowly. Leah nodded. "The signal is adapting to reality. It is rewriting itself to fit the branch we're in, just like the loop tried to adapt to us." Ray sank into the nearest chair. "So it's not just a message, it's a mechanism." Yes, Leah said. It doesn't just tell us what happened, it shows what could happen. It corrects the timeline just enough to create the possibility of a new choice. Crom scrubbed his hand over his face. Perfect. We escape one time loop, and now we find a signal that can quietly edit history itself. Ray stood up again, as if sitting down suddenly felt unsafe. Where is it coming from? He asked. Leah hesitated. Then she called up a 3D model of Earth on the main screen and overlaid the detection data. A faint, translucent band of readings appeared high above the equator. The source isn't somewhere out there in deep space. It's closer, much closer, but not in normal space. Crom squinted at the display. That contour. It's not an orbit, Leah said. It's a phase envelope. The source exists in a neighboring state of space-time. Ray felt cold prickle along his spine. You're saying ARK 9 could be here? Here, Leah confirmed, and at the same time, not here. It's like a ship just outside the thickness of the glass, never quite touching the water. Crom exhaled, the sound between a laugh and a groan. So they're trying to break through, he muttered. Ray looked back at the frozen audiogram of Ellen's voice. We left the loop, he said quietly, but the loop hasn't left us. In the morning, they were called into the main analytical room of the base, an odd hybrid of eras. On one side, metal cabinets with old NASA labels. On the other, racks of modern servers humming under the weight of classified data. We've obtained new results from the reanalysis, said Dr. Rains, the head of the lab. He looked like a man who hadn't slept much even before the Helix crew arrived. During deeper processing of the file, we detected embedded blocks, he continued, sub-packets. They were invisible in the first pass. Leah stepped forward. What kind of sub-packets? Encrypted, Rains replied. They only become readable when we apply that parameter you gave us, your so-called phase correction. Without it, they might as well not exist. Ray exchanged a quick look with Crom. Run it, Ray said. Fans accelerated, status lights flickered. On the main display, the noisy spectrum shifted, reorganized itself, and then new words condensed out of the static. If you received this, the voice said, weaker now, more distant, it means we have found the point. But the point is unstable. The loop is trying to close. Do not let it. The voice fragmented, cut by gaps of empty noise, but the meaning punched straight through. Leah leaned closer to the console, fingers pressed to the metal edge of the table. This isn't just a one-way message, she said. It's reacting. It knows we opened the file now. Rains frowned. That's not possible. The signal was recorded 15 years ago. There is no back channel. There is, Ray said softly. The loop. The scientists glanced at each other, not amused. Ray gestured at the historical timeline overlaid with their access logs. Look here. The frequency drift in the subpacket begins exactly at the moment when we first accessed the archive in this timeline. Not before, not after. From their side, our observation is an event. You're suggesting, Rains said slowly, that observation here changes the structure of the file there. The observer always changes the data, Leah said. You just usually see it in particle experiments, not in deep space archives. This is quantum mechanics at macroscopic scale, one of the younger analysts whispered. No, Leah corrected. This is nonlinear causality. The loop doesn't care about your scales. Crom stared at the waveform. They're not just warning us about something, he said. They're interacting with us in real time, from inside a time that shouldn't touch ours. Ray shook his head. This isn't conversation, he said. It's extraction. Rains blinked. Extraction? Ray nodded. They're trying to pull something or someone out of the loop, and right now, that someone is us. Later that day, after the officials and technicians left to argue in quiet rooms, the lab felt almost peaceful. Only the low hum of servers and the muted flicker of status LEDs broke the silence. The three of them remained. Leah opened the next decrypted block, the screen filled with a dense pattern of symbols that appeared in fragments, like a picture bleeding through thin paper. "This looks like coordinates," Cram said, tilting his head. "They are," Leah said, "but not the way you think. These aren't longitude and latitude, not even classic space-time coordinates." Ray moved closer. "Then what are we looking at?" "States," Leah answered. "These are coordinates in the space of conditions, a map of configurations the loop can take, its folds, its crossings." Ray watched her highlight clusters on the display. Lines arched and intertwined, forming something between a circuit diagram and a topographic map, but with multiple layers stacked on each other. "This segment here," Leah said, "is our original loop, the one we were trapped in near the anomaly. Here are the points where ARK-9's trajectory intersected itself in time." She marked a small region where several lines clustered tightly. "And these," she added, "are instability points, when the loop becomes thin, semi-transparent." Ray felt a pressure in his chest, a memory of vibrations under his feet when ARK-9's core ran at critical power. "So those are exit points," he said quietly. Leah nodded once. "Potential exits," she corrected. "Places where you can fall out of the loop if you disturb it the right way." Cram leaned on the back of a chair. "But we did fall out," he said. "We're here in 2023, in a world where ARK-9 never launched. Isn't that the exit?" Leah switched overlays again, this time projecting their current branch onto the diagram. A new line appeared, drifting away from the tight cluster of original trajectories, bending out into a different region. "This branch," she said, "is the reality we're in now, the one where the project was canceled in 2009 and quietly buried in budget revisions." Ray watched the line and felt a dull ache. "So we exited," he repeated, "but we didn't exit into where we were supposed to." "Exactly," Leah said. "We left, but not to the main outcome. We're in an offshoot, a side corridor in a house of mirrors." The implication hung in the air like static. ARK-9 had provided a way out, several ways in fact. They had chosen one of them almost blindly, and ended up in a timeline where ARK-9 existed only as an abandoned line item in old reports, which meant there were other exits, and in at least some of them, ARK-9 was still there, still orbiting the anomaly, still fighting the loop, still sending signals. By evening, their analysis was no longer just about understanding the signal. It had turned into something more dangerous, an attempt to understand Elin's intention. Leah laid a fresh printout in front of Ray. "Look at this sequence," she said. "The moment the loop reaches maximum instability, the parameters change. Someone on ARK-9 injects a modulation into the core. That's when the first version of this signal appears." Ray followed the numbers down the page. They matched the memory stored in his own body, the vibrations, the low hum in the bulkheads, the way light bent in the command module as the core pulsed. "Elin found a point," she continued, "a moment when the loop was as thin as it could be without collapsing entirely. She used that moment to push a signal outward." "And it punched through space and time," Crom said. Leah nodded. "But why?" Ray asked. "Why not try to get the whole station out? Why send only data?" Leah's expression hardened with a familiar kind of anger, the anger of a scientist forced to think like a strategist. "Inside the loop, every attempt to break free led to the same outcome," she said. We saw that in the archives on ARK 9. Different choices, same ending. That's what drove her to stabilize the core instead of destroying it. Ray remembered the recordings from episode 3, future versions of themselves, exhausted, leaving warnings that didn't help. She realized, Leah went on, that she couldn't change her outcome from inside the loop, but she could change someone else's in another branch. Crom looked up. So we're not the main characters in her plan, he said. We're one of many possible audiences? Ray walked to the small, narrow window. Night was descending again over the desert. The base lights glowed in dull clusters. Beyond them, the horizon was an empty strip between darknesses. Then the real question isn't whether ARK 9 still exists, he said quietly. He stared into the dark, as if searching for a faint, invisible silhouette just beyond sight. The real question is, does ARK 9 want to come back? Crom folded his arms. And if it does, he added, what does back even mean now? To our original future? To their present? Or to this world that never launched it at all? Leah spoke without looking up from the data. You asked earlier if a signal can change reality like we changed the loop, she said. Yes, Ray answered. She tapped the screen where the parameters had shifted after their first access. It already has, she said. By existing, by being read, by being decoded, it's bending this branch of history toward contact. Ray's fingers tightened on the metal frame of the window. Somewhere, in a layer of space-time that their instruments barely knew how to describe, a station hung like a scar. Not dead, not alive in any normal sense, waiting. Night wrapped itself around the base for the second time since they had first heard Eileen's voice. The labs were quieter now. Many of the Earth scientists had gone home or to the sleeping quarters, leaving the anomalous case to run on automated scripts. Officially, nothing urgent was happening. Unofficially, everything was. Leah, Ray, and Cram stood in front of the main screen in the semi-dark lab. Only the blue-white light of the spectrum analyzer lit their faces. A new line had appeared in the data feed. No one had typed it, no script had been scheduled to print it. It had simply emerged, like a message written in condensation on glass. Point stability, 12%. It was 8% 2 hours ago, Leah said quietly. Her voice somehow made the room even more silent. Cram checked the logs reflexively. No input on our side, he said. No new corrections, no new filters. We didn't change anything. Ray took a slow step back from the screen, as if he fearing that if he moved too quickly, something would crack. It's rising on its own, he said. What does that mean? Cram asked. The question hung in the air, not as a plea for information, but as a test. How far were they willing to follow the logic of what they had discovered? Ray looked first at the glowing line, then at his two crewmates. It means, he said slowly, choosing each word, that the point, the unstable, semi-transparent place in the loop, is becoming more stable. Not there, but here, in relation to our branch. Leah swallowed. ARK 9 is not just sending signals anymore, she said. It's tuning itself, or letting the universe tune around it. It's looking for resonance. Cram's gaze slid back to the word on the screen. Resonance with what? He asked. Ray held his stare. With us, he said, with this version of Earth, with this timeline, with this exact moment where the Helix crew, who once chased ARK 9, now live in a world that never launched it. Silence crept outward from the center of the room. Not fear, not hope, presence. It felt like standing on one side of a thin wall, knowing that on the other side, someone was standing exactly opposite, palm against the same point, separated by a few millimeters of material. as if Arc 9, whatever it had become inside the loop, was now standing at the boundary of their reality, testing it with gentle, patient pressure, trying to get through. Leah didn't take her eyes off the screen. "If stability keeps growing," she said softly, "there will be a moment when the barrier is thin enough for something more than a signal to pass." "Like what?" Cram asked, though he already knew the answer. Ray let out a breath that felt like it had been held since the day they first saw the station lost beyond the horizon of the anomaly. "Like a ship," he said, "like a station, like a whole piece of history that refused to die quietly inside a loop." He looked again at the glowing words. "Point stability, 12%. "It's not just searching for a passage," Ray said, "it's creating one." No alarm sounded, no red lights flashed. Outside, the desert wind blew against the walls of the base like nothing had changed. But for the three of them, and for the station caught between times, everything had. Because now they knew. The loop wasn't finished, it was shifting, and somewhere out there in the noise and the dark, Arc 9 was still moving, not away, closer.